Hey guys, welcome back to the Babbling Boots YouTube channel. We babble about boots. In today's video, we're going to be doing a little bit of new boot goofing. We have a pair of Truman boots here that we got online that we're going to be doing a little review of. We did buy these used, I think through eBay, so these aren't a brand new pair of Truman, so it's not going to be like a typical unboxing where we go through everything. It's just going to be kind of a review of the boots themselves. Let's get started. So these are a pair of Truman boots on the 55 last. They are in Horween Steel Predator. I believe Steel Predator is a leather that's very similar to their Chrome XL leather, and that it's originally chrome tanned, and then they do a vegetable retannage after that, so it's like a combination tan. It has, the durability you'd find in a lot of chrome tan leathers, but it also has that nice patina that you get from like Chrome XL that's been vegetable tanned. I will say, feeling it initially, it does feel a little bit different than Chrome XL, and that it has kind of more of a matte appearance to it. And then it's also, when you feel it, it kind of feels almost like a slight nubuck texture to it. It's not like perfectly smooth and has that glossy feel. It's kind of just a slight bit of a nubuck texture to it. But I think over time, when you wear these and if you do a lot of brushing to them, it will patina up and then they will kind of develop a shine over time. It actually kind of reminds me of the Viberg horsefoot boots that I have that are kind of more of a matte feeling, but after you wear them a lot, they do start to shine up and get a little bit smoother. So it's similar to that. So these were actually purchased for me by my wife, and I think one reason she chose these is just she really knows what I like in boots. These have a nice, sleek silhouette. It's an unstructured toe box here, so it collapses over time and has a nice, sleek look to it. It also looks pretty similar to the Viberg aesthetic, but it's still kind of unique to what Truman has. So it looks very similar, but also a little bit different. And it also has the plain toe here. So, I've been trying, if you've seen my Grant Stone video, I've been on the hunt for a plain toe boot that I like, still on that search. And we decided, hey, let's try out the Truman non-cap toe and see how it is. Overall, I really like the aesthetic of it. I think it's a very nice, sleek looking boot. More so than a lot of the boots that Truman has on their website right now. As I mentioned, this is on their 55 last, so it's more of an almond-shaped appearance in the toe box. I think most all of the boots that Truman has on their website right now are on the 79 last, which is their more, work boot aesthetic, a structured toe box, and it's just more bulbous, and it's more of a chunky boot. And I think that's kind of their classic last. And I look on the Truman website fairly regularly, and for whatever reason, I know that they brought the C55 last in a few years ago, so it's still a pretty new last, but for whatever reason, maybe it's not as popular as their classic 79 last. So they're not really making that many 55 last boots anymore. And it seems like they've been kind of going less and less with the 55 last over the past few years, which is sad to me because I really like the shape of it. Additionally, as far as unstructured toe boots go, Truman, is kind of doing less of those as well. They only have, I think, one unstructured toe box boot on their website right now. And I think it's kind of like a coyote rough out or something, which wasn't really something that was interesting to me, so I didn't go that route. So I guess if I want to find a Truman boot that I like, at least in the interim, I'm going to have to keep looking on, eBay for used older pairs of the 55 boot until they maybe start making some more, hopefully. So for a sizing comparison, their website says that if you get their 79 classic round toe boot, I think you're supposed to size a half size down from your Brannock size, which would have been an 8 for me. And then if you get boots on their 55 last, then I believe it's true to size, which would for me be an 8.5. These, as I mentioned, I didn't buy them on their website, so I didn't have the luxury of choosing any size I wanted. I liked the way these looked, and we decided to get them. But the only problem is that they're a size 8, which after wearing them, we've discovered is probably a half size too small for me. The right boot actually feels fine. I think my right foot is technically like an 8.25 on the Brannock device, and this one's more of an 8.5. So the left boot definitely sticks out more in the toes here for me. It's just too tight in my left boot. I could definitely make these work with my right foot, but the left one I think might just be a bit too snug. And I could try to expand these, put some shoe trees in them and try to stretch out the toe box, and it might stretch out well enough over time. I'm just not sure if I want to have to try to do that because I do have some other boots that fit me really well. So I might go that route, or I might just try to resell these without putting much wear on them because these are still in really nice condition without much wear. As far as physical appearance and the quality of the boots, I think that they look great. I will say that. This is the first time I've ever had Trumans in my hands. And I think the Goodyear welt, it's Goodyear welt construction, by the way. I don't know if I mentioned that. It's a very nice welting. I don't know if you can see the sides. I'll post some pictures of it, but it's very clean welt joints on both sides. It's 270-degree Goodyear welt, so it doesn't go all the way around. But where the welt joints are on both sides, it's very well done, at least on this left boot here. The right one's still very clean. It's just maybe not quite as clean on this part right here on the inside of the right boot, but overall I think it looks very nice, and I like the stitch density of the welt stitches here. It looks very clean. As far as stitching on the uppers go, the stitches also look very clean. There might be like a few loose threads here where the quarters are attached to the vamp, but I mean that's pretty common in a lot of boots. And I think it looks fine overall. You could get, I think if you buy these from Truman, I think they even include like a box of matches for you to singe down loose threads on your boots if you have any. So I mean, they expect there to be loose threads, and I expect there to be loose threads on a lot of boots. It's not really a big deal. Just burn them down if they bother you. One thing that's pretty unique about this is compared to other boots on the Truman website is these actually have a roll top here. If you see, you know, most boots, and if you see my other Viberg boots, and there's really any boot that I have at this point, they're all, I guess they're just a standard top here. I don't know if that's called a cut top, but they don't have the leather that's rolled up. So I think this is kind of the leather where they have on the inside of boots at the top. It's kind of a reinforcement when you're putting your foot in the boot, so this doesn't kind of bend and warp. But what they've done is they've rolled this from the inside over the outside. So I think it probably provides a little more, well, aesthetics, I guess, if you are into that, but also it probably provides a little more structure and strength. So, you know, when your foot's hitting it, you're not kind of bending and misshaping the leather. It kind of provides a nice way for your foot to slip in more easily. So I think that's a pretty nice touch. As far as the tongue of the boots go, I think this is probably my main critique of these boots. The tongue feels like it's like some very soft and thin calf skin. And I think it's just a little bit too soft in comparison to the rest of the boot. Like the rest of the boot feels very hardy. You know, it feels great in the hands and then on the feet. It just feels solid. But for whatever reason, this tongue and both of the boots, honestly, it's just so thin and flimsy. It doesn't inspire confidence when you're wearing them. You know, not that like your tongue is like, well, the tongue of the boot. Let's keep it clear. It's not like the tongue of the boot is, you know, a point of strength that you need to worry about, but it just, you can see here where it's been rubbing up on the sides of the boot. I'll try to get some pictures of that. It's actually not just scuffing, it's actually scraping away the surface of the leather. So over time, this will probably wear through, and it's already started to wear through the top of the surface. So I think this is going to be like the biggest point of failure on these boots is just where these tongues rub up against like the inside. It's probably mostly these where the speed hooks are connected, I guess. You can see there's metal that's kind of not flush and it's a little bit more rough, especially this second one. So that's probably where it's just rubbing on that, and it's wearing away over time. And I think eventually, I mean, the previous owner didn't put much wear in these, and this part's already worn through a bit. I'd imagine if you wore these consistently for years, you're going to have a hole in here, and eventually that hole is going to start brushing into your foot, and it's probably going to be a little uncomfortable. So I think at some point you'd probably have to get these tongues replaced with something more substantial, which I don't think that's great. And then another thing that's kind of interesting with Truman, they do with their tongues, they do a lot of contrast tongues for their boots. So like if you get darker browns, a lot of times they have kind of like a tan tongue, or if you get, you know, like tan boots, they might have like a reddish oxblood tongue. And this is kind of keeping in line with that trend where this is more of a steel gray with some brown tones in it, and they have like a black contrasting tongue for their boots. I don't have a problem either way with it. I think some people really like it, some people don't. I'm kind of agnostic on that. I think it's fine either way. The only thing I don't like about the tongue, as I said, is just that it's not very structured, and that's not good for me at least. It is half gusseted though, or a third gusseted, semi-gusseted. We're going to say it's semi-gusseted. So it's kind of like Viberg in that fact. It's not like the whites. 350 cutters I have, it's fully gusseted, so the gusset goes all the way up to the top, so you wouldn't have to ever worry about water coming into your boot unless it comes over the top. These, it's just, you know, you can have water come up to like here, and then you wouldn't have to worry about it probably getting in your boot. But it does keep your tongue in line, the tongue of your boots in line. It does keep the tongue of your boots in line so it doesn't fall off to one side or another, you know, and kind of get uncomfortable or annoying. So I do like that touch. I much prefer gusseted or semi-gusseted boots over just free-floating tongues in all of my boots. We're going to keep it to boots. That also is day-night. It looks like it's actually still in pretty good condition. I think this guy really did not put much wear in these at all. But it's, you know, I've talked about day-night a lot. I think it's a solid sole type. It does the job, does what I expect it to do. And that's about it. So the next thing is, if you've ever watched my videos, you probably know what's coming next. I'm going to do a weight comparison of these two boots. Okay. Whew. Thought it was dead. That was scary. Okay, so the right boot is 1 pound, 13.5 ounces. 1 pound, 13.5 ounces. Okay. The left boot is 1 pound, 12.4 ounces. This may be the largest discrepancy I've had between the left and the right boot. 1 pound, 12.4 ounces. So this boot is 1.1 ounces lighter than the right boot, for anyone that's curious. I don't know why, but it is. I also have my Viberg 2030 service boots on 7.5 that I'm going to compare the weight of. 1 pound, 11.5 ounces. 1 pound, 11.5 ounces. My Grant Stones, 1 pound, 11.2 ounces. 1 pound, 11 ounces. So these Trumans are actually heavier than the Grant Stones and the Vibergs. At least the 7.5 Vibergs. My size 8 Vibergs are probably heavier than all of these. I'd have to go back and look at the weight of these. But yeah, so right now for all these boots, the Trumans are the heaviest. I could see that. That makes sense. So that's if you're something to keep in mind. If you're trying to get a lighter boot, I would not go with Truman because they're heavy. If you want a heavier boot, Truman's a good boot because it's heavy. So while I have my Vibergs and my Grant Stones out, I kind of wanted to do a size comparison for these. As I mentioned, these are Truman boots in size 8, and they're just a little bit too snug for me, especially in the left foot here. I should have probably gotten a size 8.5, which would be true to size for me. I just wanted to do a comparison on the size in relation to the other boots that I have. So you can see that the Viberg one is just a hair taller in the left boot, and it's definitely wider. I don't know if I can show you that. It's definitely wider in the toe box by a good bit, which is why this one's probably so much more comfortable for me. You can really see the almond-shaped silhouette of the Truman 55 last, though. It's much more sleek in shape, which I do like. I will say I really do like the sleek shake of the Truman last. It just doesn't fit me in this size. So if I can find an 8.5, then I will try to get that. Cool. Very cool. So I'll do the comparison of the Trumans with the Grant Stones. These are both size 8 from the respective companies, so they should theoretically be similar. It looks to me like the Grant Stone one, I'm going to try to get these as close to even as I can, might be a slight bit taller, not by much though, if it is at all, but the Truman one definitely seems like it's wider. If you look here, it looks like it's a little bit wider in the toe box. Not significantly though, it's interesting. I think that I'm closer to the Grant Stone 8 fitting me in the toe. I know in my last video I said that my toe sticks out a bit. It's not too uncomfortable. It could also be just the leather of the Truman is stiffer and thicker, which is why it feels more snug and uncomfortable. It's less, I guess, forgiving for my toe than the Grant Stone one is. So even though there might be a little more space in the toe box for the Truman one, it's still not enough. And because it's not enough, my toe feels a lot more pressure in this boot than it does in the Grant Stone boot. But other than that, I think for me, it probably would make more sense for me to get this one in like I think an E width, because this is a D width. And then the Truman, I guess I really should just size up a half size. I don't even think it's really like a width issue overall. I just need to have a larger size. We'll also touch on the speed hooks. I'll do like I guess a little speed hook comparison between Grant Stone and Truman. So these speed hooks, for some reason, well, all of the speed hooks on the shoes that I've gotten, from my Allen Edmonds sneakers to my Grant Stones, they're always very nice and firm. I think the weakest speed hooks I have are from Thursday boots, and because those kind of have some give to them, but these both feel pretty strong. I think the Truman ones are probably a little stronger than the Grant Stone ones, and that's just because the Grant Stone ones look to be a little thinner metal, whereas these Truman ones are definitely just a little thicker. So they'll probably last longer. They look like they're more reinforced. So as far as pricing goes, these, I think, I looked on the Truman website, and right now most of their boots retail from somewhere between $400 and $500. I think a lot are around $460, anywhere in that range. Viberg's, over $700. Grant Stones go $300 to $400-ish, in that range, if you're not getting shell cord and which gets more expensive. So the Trumans sit kind of in the middle of Viberg's and Grant Stone in price, and I'd say also probably kind of in quality and durability. I think that's a good place for them. So why would you buy Trumans over Viberg or Grant Stone if it's kind of in the middle? They're all very high quality, I'll say that first and foremost. I think that Grant Stones are more of a dress boot, and you can see that in the dress boot silhouette, right? They're just more of a dress boot. They're not boots that you're going to wear. Probably, you could wear them out like in rugged areas and they hold up, but I don't think that that's really what they're meant for. They're also lined, which, not saying one thing or another with lining, but I feel like lining is typically more prevalent in something you would see with a dress boot. Neither of the Truman nor the Vibergs are lined. These are both unlined. I would say if you just want a boot to walk around a city in or wear casually with jeans and whatnot, and you're not really interested in something that's super hardy or rugged, Grant Stones would be great for that, because they're just hardy and rugged enough to where they feel like boots, and you're wearing boots, but you can wear them around a city, and for the price point, they're going to hold up very well. The Trumans, I think, are more comparable to Viberg in terms of build quality and kind of durability. One thing is Trumans are made in the USA, Vibergs are made in Canada, and Grant Stones are made in China. So if you really want a boot that's made in the USA that's very hardy and rugged, then I think definitely look at Trumans. They're a little bit cheaper than something like White's or Nick's. So if you are like dead set on, I want a made in the USA boot that's rugged and can be worn, in pretty much all conditions, I think Truman is definitely a good option for you. I think that really the choice for Truman versus Viberg is almost kind of an aesthetic thing. I think both are equally well made in terms of durability. I think the quality of Viberg's is going to be a little higher as far as just overall finishing of Viberg's. The stitching is going to be a little bit higher quality. I think the tongue selection is going to be higher quality. I mean, this tongue is way too thin. I don't think you're going to find a tongue like this in a Viberg boot, nor a Grant Stone boot. I think Grant Stone boots are also more substantial. And then just for the overall aesthetic of the boot, these are the 55 last, so they look sleeker. And I think it's a very nice silhouette. But as I mentioned, they don't really have any on their website currently that are on the 55 last. Most of them are the structured toe 79 last, and it's much more bulbous and chunky. And if you like that in appearance, then you would definitely be wise to go in the direction of Truman. If you're not really a fan of that, though, you're kind of stuck, right? You could look online for their used ones, or you could go with something with more of, Viberg silhouette, where it's still rugged looking, but it's a little bit more sleek than the Truman 79 last, where it's just a little too bulky for my taste. And I just think the overall finish of, as I mentioned before, of Viberg is just a bit higher. One thing I did notice, and this is probably the previous owner, these boot laces are pretty short, as you can see. I mean, this is not even all the way up, to the last eyelet before you get to the speed hooks on either one, and you wouldn't be able to lace them any further. And it looks to me like for both boots, it looks like the lace probably snapped. And so he just had to even it out and make them shorter for both boots. I don't know if these laces came with the Truman boots or he bought them third party, but it does look like they probably snapped at some point. I don't know if that's an issue that Truman has with their laces or what, but for these specific ones, I can tell that these definitely snap. So if I want to wear these about, I'll definitely have to order some new laces for these because these will not work. So my overall impressions of Truman, the brand, the boots, these are very high quality. These are made in the USA. I think that the durability and ruggedness is on par with Viberg, just not quite the same level of finish and polish as Viberg. But these are also $400 to $500, which is, $200 to $300 less than you're getting from Viberg, which is very nice. I think for the price you're getting a very solid boot. For someone that would like these boots, I think make sure that if you're finding a pair on the 55 last, make sure you size true to size and not smaller than that. And if you get some on the 79 last because you like the look of it, I believe go half size down from your Brannock size and they should fit you well. And I think if you get the right fit for you, the boots will serve you well too because they're just very hardy and substantial. No complaints there other than the tongue. That's not good. So if you or someone that just wanted a pair of boots or a couple of pairs of boots in your collection and you wanted boots that were going to last, a lifetime and you could resole and you didn't want to break the bank on something like Viberg's, I think Truman's are a great option. These are definitely could be buy it for life boots. For the value, $400 to $500, I would say, you get a pair of these and they would last you 10 plus years, a decade or more if you took care of them and your tongue didn't scrape a hole in your foot. I think you'd have really nice boots. So yeah, that's been my review of this pair of Truman boots. Guys, if you have any other questions, feel free to leave a comment. Thank you guys.